How did you guys meet Dan?
I met Dan through referral of my tech chair. We were looking at changing some infrastructure, putting some different things into place, not necessarily one-on-one sales training, which we had already kind of had, but more on the bigger picture. For me, and I'm sure you guys are similar, it's more about them being able to do a good job is almost like table stakes for me, but getting along with somebody and them being somebody you enjoy working with is that much more important. So that's kind of the icing on the cake and what sold us, and we know him, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I met him. How about you guys?
I basically was somewhat in the same boat you were, with a pharmaceutical company, and we're scaling up and hiring about 200 plus people. And being the director of sales, one of the concerns I had was the culture and creating the right sales force and hiring management teams, but more importantly, good people to work for.
Yeah.
Always looking to do the right thing. And as Dan's words, which was what really sold me, if you will, was always working on a level of high intent.
I met him through another friend, and we actually knew each other socially for a while. What we really found out was that we were not doing a great job of even testing to see if the person had the right personality. So Dan came in and took apart the puzzle, and we just said, look, let's go all the way back to basics. Why are we not succeeding, and why are we having some great success? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong?
We've had a difficult time finding salespeople that are successful. You would look at all the successful sales reps that we had, and you would look at them, and they were all across the board. People would say, well, what common
theme
do they have? And I'm like, well, I mean, let's see what blanket terms I can use here. They are aggressive, they are money hungry, and they like the thrill to kill. That's great. That's like saying that, what type of people do you like to date? Well, I like to date women.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that doesn't really help. And so when we started to take those tests, it was amazing because it definitely, it's still all across the board, but what it does is it solidifies and puts a little more meat on terms like aggressiveness.
The thing that I like the most about the assessments and us continuing this culture to make sure that it stays intact, that these folks are now being measured to a degree. Measure in your world, and maybe in your world, is always on data. It's always on sales. It's always on the results. These measurements now that we're looking at really speak to our culture, and that is people first. And people first meaning our own people as well as our customers. But it's the small things that make the biggest differences. Why do the roses, that cost us $10 make such a big difference to our spouses? Well, it's the little things that make the bigger differences. And now we're looking to measure those little things, if you will. And that's the measurement that I'm more concerned with. Those are the measurements because, as Dan always mentions, and as I always have mentioned, I'm sure each of you mentioned, the more we do those things, you may not see results today, you may not see them tomorrow, but eventually those results will come. Yeah. Not just what you expect, but usually in spades, twofold, threefold.
We're in the middle of a transition, and so we've been a year into it with Dan, and we're starting the year, and we're going to start a whole new process. And we're going to see how it moves forward. He's going to help coach and plan through hiring brand new reps, and we're going to start totally different than we've done before, much longer sales or the training process operationally, and we're going to inundate them from the beginning with the Dan's way of doing business, and we'll know a year from now how successful we are. But I feel very comfortable that we've started a good process, and it's going to last for the next the 10 years I have left in my career.